I did invite Sally Busby on the show to have a conversation about this. We've had lots of people on the past that from all kinds of different perspectives. I would actually really appreciate to have an honest back and forth on this point of why they decided to go this direction. But she hasn't responded yet. Hopefully she will in the future. But first, I do want to talk a little more about the victims and the effect this has had, because when I wrote my piece, there were the comments from Kimberly Garcia, which were concerning. Then you did the interview with Ryan Petty, and I think people should go and watch that as well if they haven't already. It's over on your channel on YouTube and everywhere else that you can get Cam and Company. But most of my analysis focused on the sort of editorial side of this and the justifications for doing it. But it does really concern me a great deal that they don't seem to have gotten at least everyone that could be affected by the publication of these pictures on the same page before doing this, right? If you've made the decision to do this, and we'll talk about the logic behind that in a little bit, but if you come to that conclusion, I think you would owe it, especially because this isn't like a breaking news environment. It's not a media thing. These are very old pictures, many of them. And I feel like you have the opportunity to go out and talk to the people who would be most traumatized by these, being the people whose family members perished in these attacks. And they don't seem to have done that, at least not to an adequate degree, which is concerning, because they kept talking a lot about in their piece and in the justification for it that they understood why these don't normally get published by reputable outlets, because they have the ability to re-traumatize victims' families and to dehumanize the victims themselves. That is from the Washington Post. That's what they said as to why they hadn't traditionally published these and why most outlets don't. And you would think if you're going to cross that line, that you would go and make a concerted effort to reach out to everyone who could be traumatized by this, who was directly involved with it. Anyone can be traumatized by looking at these photos. I think that's fair, but the people we should all have most concern for in this situation are family members. And look, some family members do want these pictures out there. I don't want to gloss over that. This has been an argument among gun control advocates and victims' families for a long time now. I was asked about this on CNN last year sometime during an attack. This has been something that has been talked about. We'll get into the logic behind it in a little bit. I don't want to make it out to be that no family member that they did this without anyone's approval or that it wasn't backed by some family members. But I just would expect you'd want all of them to be comfortable with what you're about to do if you're going to do something like this.
I guess they decided that didn't really matter ultimately. That, once they had made the decision that they were going to publish these photos, they were going to share these videos because they felt that they were important enough, or that there was going to be this emotional impact. And again, you talk about, you don't have to have lost a family member or a loved one. You don't have to survive one of these shootings in order to be traumatized. I think the Washington Post wanted their audience to be traumatized. They wanted an emotional impact, certainly, or else they wouldn't have shared these photos and videos to begin with, right? So they wanted that visceral gut punch for every reader, every subscriber who saw these pictures. And I think that ultimately they must have just concluded, again, I wish that we had Sally Busby here to ask her directly, but my impression is that they concluded that the pain and suffering of some of the victims and their families who did not want these videos shared was worth the potential advancement, right, of this agenda and this desire to ban semi-automatic rifles. I think I'm with you. I think it's gross. Certainly there are times where you're not going to do something that is within the wishes of the family. There may be, any random crime, right? A strong arm robbery that results in somebody dying. The victim's family might not want certain details reported, things of that nature. And sometimes there really is a justification to do so.
Right.
But again, in this case, the justification wasn't based on journalism. That wasn't the justification. There is no journalistic justification for this. You talked about some of the other high profile events that we have seen covered by the media, and certainly on social media, right, which is a whole other animal. Right. But the journalistic justification for this, I think, was really lacking. Well, and I think it's, in a way, Stephen, it's more than just lacking. It is insulting, because the entire premise is that, well, the reason why we don't have a gun ban is because people don't understand how awful these murders are when they're committed by someone using an AR-15. And I don't know about you, but I have to say, in all of my conversations over the years with people who oppose these types of gun bans, I've never really run across somebody who just, blithely dismissed these deaths, or who didn't understand the pain and the loss that these victims and their families feel. So I do think it is insulting to those like Ryan Petty, who don't believe that a gun ban is the answer.